Here's how I cover a huge 10-inch, about 7-inch deep cake in fondant. So it's a 10-inch round and around 7 inches high. So I use the panelling method. Now, as you can see, I'm rolling out a little bit of fondant to attach to the top of my cake first. So smooth all that out, get that all nice and lovely and big enough to go over the top of your cake. Now I use either a little bit of water or piping gel, or just whatever your preferred method is to stick that down, and just smoothing that all out. Now we are going to flip it. Now this is a large 10-inch and it weighs a ton. So the flipping bit is a little bit scary, but I'm more than used to it now. So once flipped, pop onto your turntable and you're going to grab a really sharp craft knife. Now as you can see, I'm turning the table, not the knife, and just trimming off the excess. So when we flip it again, it should be perfectly cut to the top of the cake. So we can trim that off, and then yep, we're going to flip again. You do need big strong arms and probably a bit of practice for this, because it is quite scary. But so once we've flipped it, now what we're going to do is we're going to roll out a really long piece of fondant to attach all around the side. To attach it, this is why I flip it again, because I like to moisten the top bit of the sugar paste where I've cut it, so that when we attach it, it sticks to it. I just find that all the flipping just results in a much sort of neater panelling method. So once we've done that and we've wet all the cake, we flip it again. So this is when I go on to measure the height and the circumference of the cake. And then when I roll out my big long piece of fondant, I'm going to make sure that it is slightly bigger in length and height, so that we've got a little bit of excess to work with. Actually, I don't cut this out quite long enough, so my excess, when we come to cut it, you'll see, could have done with being a little bit longer, but I did manage to get away with it. Now we're going to cut all the way down the bottom. That edge, then you can see if you've rolled it out evenly, so it's all the same length. I then get a ruler just to help straighten up that bottom edge a little bit, because it doesn't have to be straight when you first cut it. I then get my tape measure and measure the height and the width that I need, just marking that in the fondant. Look, that wasn't a straight line. It doesn't matter, because that's a little bit of excess that we're going to work with. Then I'm going to go on to smoothing that very end bit out, because we're going to roll that back on itself, and to prevent it from digging in and marking the fondant too much, just smooth that first edge out. I then use my hand to guide the ruler, to guide the rolling pin, just so it's all rolled up fairly straight. Now grab your cake. It is slightly moist. And then we're going to pop that up against the cake, and we're going to roll it back on itself, making sure it meets the bottom and you're pushing it onto the cake so it attaches. Don't worry at this point if you've got any air bubbles or lines, as you can see I have, because we're going to smooth those babies out, not a problem. Now as you can see where the two bits meet there, I could have done with a little bit more of an overlap just to help me make my life easier, but I didn't. There's me popping a little air bubble. So I grab a ruler, and where those two overlap, cut a straight line all the way through both pieces. Take off the top piece, peel it back, and take the underneath piece off. That then results in a perfect join. Now with the panelling method, you will always get a line in your fondant, unfortunately, where the two pieces meet. It's just a case of spending a bit of time rubbing them and smoothing them and getting them as seamless as possible. But don't panic if your line never completely disappears, because mine doesn't. It also depends. I tend to get a smoother join when using white as opposed to a coloured fondant, but just work with it and it does become almost invisible. I then push the fondant down to meet the board, just in case it's not met anywhere. And a great tip is to use a little bit of discarded fondant to help smooth it all out. It really hugs the cake and gets rid of any lines. And then use a really sharp knife and trim off the top, and look at that nice neat bottom, because this is the bottom, remember, because we are then, once we've got this done, we're going to flip it for the third time. Is it the third? I've lost count. And hopefully, fingers crossed, once you take the plate off, you should have a perfectly iced cake. Now again, remember, with the paneling method, you will get seams. It's just about working them to make them disappear as much as possible. I then get my smoother and just ensure that that meets the bottom of the plate again, just in case it sort of wibbled a little bit. Wibbled, that's a new word. But there you go. That's paneling method, and I love it.